Barnaby was a 100-pound bulldog they called too stubborn to love. But what he carried in his jaws at 3:12 a.m. saved the Morrison family from a tragedy that would have left their home in ashes forever. Barnaby was a 100-pound mountain of wrinkled skin and misunderstood silence. A massive Old English bulldog who spent his days as a living shadow in the Morrison household. With his heavy jowls and a face that looked like it had been carved from a block of weathered granite, strangers often crossed the street when they saw him, intimidated by his sheer size and the power radiating from his broad chest. But behind that formidable exterior lived Barnaby, a gentle giant who had been returned twice to the High Hill shelter because families found him too much to handle or too scary for the neighborhood. Sarah and David Morrison were the only ones who saw the quiet loneliness in his sagging, soulful eyes. They brought him home, giving him a third chance at life. Yet Barnaby remained cautious, always keeping a respectful distance as if he were afraid of overstaying his welcome. He established a ritual of sleeping in the corner of the living room, a silent guardian who monitored the home with a vigilance that no security system could ever match. I notice you're still not subscribed, and honestly, that makes me sad. We share these incredible stories, and we need you in our family. Just one click right now. You won't regret joining our journey. Now, back to what happened next as Barnaby's secret past began to reveal itself through his actions. Barnaby wasn't just a dog, he was a meticulous observer. He learned the creaks of the floorboards, the hum of the refrigerator, and the scent of every person who walked past their fence. He carried a heavy secret from his past, a memory of a home he couldn't save, which made him hyper-aware of every change in the environment. While the neighbors continued to whisper that a dog of his reputation was a ticking time bomb, Barnaby was busy memorizing the rhythm of the Morrisons' lives. He would rest his massive head on Sarah's lap when she felt stressed, making soft snorting sounds that felt like a healing vibration. He was a dog waiting for a purpose, a rejected soul who had finally found a pack to call his own. The Morrisons thought they were the ones who rescued him from a cold concrete kennel, but they had no idea that Barnaby was actually the one who was preparing to save them from the dark. The night of the incident began with a peaceful silence, but by 3 a.m., the atmosphere in the Morrison kitchen shifted into something deadly. A dish towel, accidentally left too close to the stove's heating element, began to smolder, sending microscopic sparks into the wooden cabinets. Within minutes, a thick, acrid smoke began to coil around the ceiling like a ghost. In the living room, Barnaby's internal alarm went off instantly. He didn't bark, he stood up slowly, his 100-pound frame vibrating with a primal electric charge. He smelled the burning fabric, a sense that triggered a dormant, agonizing memory of fire and loss. Barnaby knew the rules. He was never allowed on the kitchen counters or to touch items that weren't his toys. But as the smoke detector failed to trigger, Barnaby realized he had to make a choice. He bolted toward the master bedroom, his heavy paws sounding like thunder on the hardwood. He didn't just whine, he threw his entire weight against the door, bursting inside and leaping onto the bed, something he had never dared to do before. David woke up in a state of shock, seeing his 100-pound bulldog hovering over him, growling with a desperation that sounded like a plea for help. "Barnaby, what's wrong?" David shouted. But before he could even stand, Barnaby turned and sprinted back toward the kitchen. The house was filling with gray haze, and the heat was becoming unbearable. Barnaby didn't wait for David to catch up. He saw the flaming towel on the floor, now a ball of orange fire spreading toward the curtains. With a courage that defied every instinct of self-preservation, Barnaby lunged forward. He clamped his powerful jaws onto the unburned edge of the flaming fabric. The heat singed his whiskers, and the smoke burned his throat, but he didn't let go. He dragged the ball of fire across the kitchen floor, his paws working frantically to push open the back doggy door. It was a race against time, a 100-pound hero fighting an invisible enemy, driven by a devotion that was far stronger than the pain of the burns beginning to mark his loyal, wrinkled face. David reached the kitchen just in time to see Barnaby disappear through the back door, dragging the flaming mass onto the concrete patio, away from the wooden structure of the house. By the time David grabbed the fire extinguisher, Barnaby had already isolated the threat, standing guard over the smoldering remains in the rain, his body shivering but his eyes fixed on the door to ensure no one else followed him into the danger. Sarah joined David on the patio, tears streaming down her face as they realized that their stubborn bulldog had just saved their lives and their home. Barnaby's paws were scorched, and his mouth had minor burns, but as Sarah knelt to hug his massive, soot-stained head, he simply gave her a gentle lick, his tail wagging with a slow, contented thump. The vet later confirmed that Barnaby would make a full recovery, but the transformation in the household was permanent. The dog that the shelter said was unwanted was now the soul of the Morrison family. The neighbors who used to avoid Barnaby now brought him treats and patted his scarred head with reverence, realizing that the most intimidating-looking dogs often have the softest hearts. Barnaby no longer sleeps in the corner of the living room. He has a custom-made bed in the hallway, positioned so he can see every bedroom door at once. Every night at 3:12 a.m., David finds himself waking up just to check on him, always seeing Barnaby with one eye open, a 100-pound guardian angel who found his purpose in the fire. He proved that loyalty isn't about how you look, but about what you're willing to sacrifice when the world starts to burn. Barnaby wasn't a monster. He was a miracle wrapped in 100 pounds of muscle and unconditional love. If this story touched your heart and you're still not subscribed, please don't wait any longer. Hit that subscribe button right now. Have you ever had a pet warn you about a danger before it happened? Share your story in the comments below. If this story moved you, please hit that like button. It helps more people find these incredible stories of bravery and devotion.